I kind of want to talk to you a little bit about demographic, right? So tell us a little bit about different types of cancers and how they affect different demographics of people.
Excellent question. Everybody's different. Not everyone's the same. And different groups of people are going to be at different risk for any type of disease. While 90% of people with colon cancer are aged 50 or older, and most commonly this is a disease that affects folks who are generally around in their 70s on average. That would kind of be the sort of middle portion. We have been seeing a trend of folks getting colon cancer earlier and earlier and younger. So I'm getting more into demographics, as you mentioned. So again, in general, this is something that affects older people, but we're starting to see younger and younger folks. Again, we're not entirely sure why. We suspect that diet probably plays a fairly large role in it. When we look at demographics further, so African Americans have a higher risk of colon cancer compared to Caucasians. And my own research that I did when I just started medical school as a student at Jefferson many years ago was looking specifically at African American versus Caucasian individuals as far as colon cancer. And African Americans present in general at a younger age comparatively and at a higher stage. Again, stage is a complicated thing, but more advanced disease at a younger age is the general trend that we saw.
Do you think you have an idea or an understanding on why that is?
It's a tricky thing because, we've talked before, race is a complex thing. As much as it's man-made in a lot of respects, or probably in most respects, we know that there are also biological differences as well. So it's complex. Part of it could be in terms of access to care.
Right.
And ability to get health screenings could certainly be playing a role. But there are other features as well that make us concerned that there probably are maybe some slight biological differences as well.
Yeah. It's
an area that we definitely need to look more so in terms of age and race when it comes to this disease and some other types of diseases as well.
Makes a lot of sense. And I think that that you kind of pretty much encapsulated and answered my last question, which was just some of the lifestyle changes that can be made to prevent the disease from developing. And I think that you answered that in really just letting us know that, exercise, a high fiber diet, and so on and so forth, a lot of water intake, are a lot of different things that can prevent the disease from developing. But is there any kind of encouragement, words of advice, as a medical professional that specializes in oncology for our viewers?
Absolutely. A lot to touch on there. I think I'll make 3 points. First, like we said, screening. There's certain cancers we don't have a very good way of screening for. In fact, lung cancer, we knew that smokers had lung cancer more often than folks who don't smoke, clearly. But we tried studies after study where we did chest x-rays, every year, every 3 months, what have you, and it didn't make any difference. Finally, we found a way of using CAT scans to identify people who we knew are at higher risk in a way that saves lives. So colon cancer is a disease that can be screened, can be caught early. And again, the way it forms is all colon cancers generally form from polyps. And these little polyps that kind of pop up in the colon, if these are removed, they will never turn into a cancer. And they grow very slowly over years and years and years. In fact, if someone has a colonoscopy and there's no disease or anything found in there, you can go up to 10 years before having another colonoscopy. That leads me to sort of my next point. Colonoscopy is not the only way to screen for colon cancer. It's a very effective way because it examines the entire colon beginning to end. If you see something, you can do something about it right there and then, which other techniques don't necessarily allow you to do. There are other tests as well. There are tests that look for blood in the stool, microscopically, where you just take a sample in your own home and throw it in the mail. There are ones that look for tumor DNA in the stool that are a little more sensitive. There are other things that you don't necessarily need anesthesia or all these other things to sort of do. So there's a lot of different techniques that people can discuss with their physician or a medical professional about ways to evaluate for that. Too often we see fear of something being wrong as an impediment to somebody actually, looking for these things. And my thinking is always that if you bury your head in the sand, you're worried that something bad might happen. Well, something bad might already be going on. And if something is truly terrible going on inside you, that's something that you would want to know about. Most people would want to know about, so you can do something about it. So often I see people paralyzed by fear that they don't seek out help. They don't see anything. And it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy where the worst case scenario actually happens. Another thing I wanted to touch on from before is the fact that this man was undergoing chemotherapy while he was filming some of these movies, while he was in the public eye and public life and all these things, and nobody knew. Nobody was able to tell. I think that gets rid of a lot of myths about chemotherapy. You might be walking, as you said before, people have struggles, people have battles that they're fighting that we know nothing about. And I think it's a call to all of us to be a little more charitable in our opinion of other people, that if something's going on or somebody says something or does something, or you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, you don't know what's going on that might have caused that to happen. So if you have two options, if somebody cuts you off in your car, you can think, oh, that person's a jerk, or you can think that that's a stressed out mom with 3 kids who are beating each other up. And, it's not an intentional slight against you. So you can't always, not all chemo makes you lose your hair. Not all chemo makes you sick and throwing up and looking really, thin all the time. This guy was in great shape and able to film these movies. And you just don't know from looking at somebody. You can't ever tell what they're going through or what their struggles are, mentally, physically, otherwise. So I think we need to be kinder to each other. I think we need to be more charitable when you have 2 different options presented to you in terms of someone's behavior or what might be going on. We automatically, or I know myself, sometimes just kind of cut to what we think is the worst. And a lot of time there's a lot more than that going on.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and I agree. I agree. I do think that we need to be more charitable in the way we view and perceive and kind of dish out our opinions on people and their personal struggles and the things that they may be going through, and so on and so forth. And that's just collectively as a society. So, Raj, I thank you again for joining us and just kind of bringing some clarity and just kind of bringing this thing home for us. Thank you for joining us, man, and it's great to see you. Your hair looks great as usual.
I think you had a little something to do with that. I think that and my parents.
Give myself a little pat on the back there. Well, listen, Raj, it's good to see you, and we'll touch base again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sean.
Absolutely. Cheers, man.